Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Happy Friday. No, it's actually a Tuesday. Anyway, so welcome to our SFAB Open Forum, the first of the two. It's just going to be four presentations. Each fee-seeking entity will have their presentation on kind of the context of why they're requesting a fee, and then go through the reasons for doing so. And all of this is being recorded too, so it will be available online on the student government website. And then after this, we'll send out a Qualtrics survey so that any student, regardless if they came to this presentation or watched it online, can give feedback before the fees, because all the information will be available online as well. Any questions about the format? Awesome. Well, we'll get started right away with student activity fee.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's nice that student activity fee will be starting us off. A lot of familiar faces. For those of you who have not recognized, welcome. It's awesome that you guys are here to be informed. And please feel free to ask questions after we're done. Kind of starting off, the student activity fee is what is in charge of funding multiple different departments here on campus. Specifically, we fund a lot of departments that are very student-centric. Right here you can see that kind of going through. I won't read off everything as you guys can see here, but a few of the bigger ones I would like to highlight is we're in charge of funding a good chunk of athletics. We're in charge of funding a lot of the building operations for the Memorial Union, and we're in charge of covering all the Tier 2 student organization expenses. As we can see, we really are focused on things that are very beneficial to the student body at NDSU. We're currently experiencing a lot of deficits right now within all of our departments, which is one of the biggest issues that we are actually presenting here today for student increase. The fees have plenty of ability to continue the benefit of the students, but unfortunately, as the current deficits that we're running right now, we are unable to fulfill these obligations, and it really is going to hold us back and stagnate us for the future to come. Our future potential for student impact is very large. Currently, we have a very substantial amount of impact on students right now, and we really feel that we can continue to increase and improve this for students. One of the biggest issues isn't even necessarily expanding our involvement, but the biggest issue we need to see right now is making sure that we can sustain the amount of opportunities, services, and programs that we currently offer to students. We're seeing a lot of big issues when it comes to deterioration and overusage based on increased enrollment and the inability to actually make up for these deteriorations. As we kind of talk down here, we're looking at a lot of different things specifically that are stemming from the increase in student usage of our programs and services. I like to specifically go to the union because this is a very easy thing to see a tangible impact. As I said here, the union needs to repair and replace flooring. We need to see changes and improvements in the technology in meeting rooms and the furniture as well, contend with the rising cost of utilities and supplies. A lot of these things are very based on inflation and increased student usage. On top of that, another key one that we like to cite is campus recreation. We see a massive usage of sporting equipment right now, and unfortunately, we don't have the funding to continue funding new equipment for students. And unfortunately, this is leading to further deterioration. Going on to the current student fee funding, one big thing is currently the student activity fee receives a little over $3.8 million, as you guys can see up there. And we make up 23.6% of all the student fees that are collected every single year. The student activity fees primary request this year accounts for 22% of the total amount being requested by all entities this year. And we'll specifically reference that number here in a couple slides. Going on to our secondary request, that accounts for 25% of all the secondary requests. Seeing I'm the first person to present, I'll explain that real quick for everyone who is not familiar with this. Each entity this year is required to submit a primary request, which is our upper level, and a secondary request, which we have to make up in case we are unable or unwilling to fund the primary amount. The difference between that is 75 cents for our primary, 65 cents for our secondary. Going on, we need to see that we fund countless different services and programs here using this amount of funding that we think is absolutely necessary for the culture and entertainment of students here at NDSU. A few of the highlights that we really like to show off is bike share program, intramural sports, movies in the Century Theater, live performances, student tickets for performing arts, the Gold Star Marching Band, the Spectrum, all of the funding for the 320 student organizations, and even the building operations for the Memorial Union. The reason for the fee increase request is the primary reason is we need to see that we have to make up for the fact that inflation and growing amount of student usage and enrollment is really taking its impact on the student activity fee. We have a lot of things that are dedicated to being used by all students and any students. And that's amazing that we're actually encountering this problem. And I think this is one of the best case scenarios we can have. Unfortunately, if we do not see further funding coming in, we really can't continue to uphold this mission. As I stated earlier, what our primary increase is looking like is 75 cents per credit increase, which totals out to a little under $230,000 annually. Our secondary increase request is 65 cents, which totals just a little under $200,000 increase annually. Further on, our current deficiencies include failure to completely cover costs within departments, long-term restoration and depreciation costs that are not accounted for, programs that are requiring part-time funding that is not sustainable, and many more issues. The biggest challenges facing the members of the student activity fee are the inconsistency with short-term funding that we've been receiving over the past few years. And I'll talk about that a little bit in further slides. But this is one of the issues that's putting us where we're at. We actually, a few years ago, were doing just fine in our overall funding, but we're seeing areas other than the student activity fee have fallen through because they were short-term and inconsistent. Therefore, that makes us come back to the original source. Now, the big thing isn't necessarily the numbers in this, but I really want to highlight where everything is relative to each other. The light green is fiscal year 16, which is last fiscal year. This is fiscal year 15, and this is fiscal year 14. Fiscal year 16 is the same as the current fiscal year right now, just for all your guys' reference. The big thing to take away from this is in fiscal year 15, we had substantially more money for every single organization that is a member of the student activity fee. The real thing to take away from this is we've essentially lost money and ability to fund programs, which is really what we're trying to make up to. The student activity fee is essential as a primary source of income for all of our members, and it is the only source of revenue for the rest of them. This is a big thing to remember because we are very in necessity for student activity fee increases. The problem is we have to go back to the well because this is our main source and almost always only source of income for our members of our departments and the members of the Finance Advisory Board. Going on with that, another thing I wanted to highlight, as I said earlier, that difference between the fiscal year 15 and the fiscal year 16 to current stems from a majority of this, that we had the collection funding and student government reserve funding supplementing the amount of money that we were getting, which was amazing at the time because it allowed us to be fruitful and it allowed us to actually achieve all of our plans that we had. Unfortunately, this funding is now falling through, and we haven't had this for fiscal year 16 or fiscal year 17 as of now. Because of that, we're coming back again to look for an increase for this upcoming for future fiscal years. Now, this is a breakdown of essentially everything I've said thus far. This is the amount difference between what we got in fiscal year 16 and present versus what we had in fiscal year 15. And this is the amount being requested for each individual entity in our primary request based on our current fees. Because of this, you can see that almost every one of these is almost identical to what we had in fiscal year 15. Along with that, the only two that stand out that are different are these two, which have experienced massive increases in student usage. We've seen a lot more traffic going through the Memorial Union, and we have seen a drastic spike in the amount of student organizations that have been enrolled and receiving funding. But with that, we like to highlight that this is a main part in where we're trying to get. We're not trying to be gluttonous and take in a ton of money. We're really just trying to get back to where we were a few years ago. This again shows with exact amounts for every single organization where we would be if we actually received the amount of funding we're requesting. And this is fiscal year 15 that we were in a few years ago. The key thing to take through is that we're pretty much identical in every single area if we do receive our primary request. And if we receive our secondary request, we'll be a little less than this, but we think it'll still be able to keep up our operations and hopefully last us for a short period of time. The historical context is we haven't had a fee increase since 2014, which has been a little bit of a delay. And along with that, our biggest issue, again, is the falling through of inconsistent funding that we've seen in the past few years. Because of this historical increase, we've actually allowed ourselves to expand. We've implemented a few big things, such as the bike share program and performing arts tickets for free for students. These are a select few things that we really pride ourselves in, and the ability to expand into new and amazing programs because of these. So it's not to say that with an increase we're just going to be stagnant and say we're going to maintain everything as normal, because that's not our goal. Our goal is to expand and create amazing new programs. But with being stuck with the current deterioration, we are seeing shortfalls and are unable to perform in that case. Our contingency plan is if the funding is not received for the members of the student activity fee, we will see further shortfalls and we'll have to resort to a select few of these areas, which include cutting programs, reducing number of participants in services and programs, reducing hours of operation, deterioration of current assets, and future budget cuts to student organizations. Whoops. For the final note, how we plan to improve, the members of the student activity fee plan to continue improving the programs that are currently offered and hope to continue to offer these in their fullest potential and make sure we counteract inflation, deterioration, and increase student usage. Our goal is to promote a strong culture and an improved life for students at NDSU. And with that, we would absolutely love any questions that you may have for us.
So on the breakdown of the fee increase on slide 10, if you want to go back to that
Yeah.
quickly, that is your primary requested increase. How would your secondary, if you would receive the secondary increase instead of the primary, how would that be allocated in terms of, you can see several entities getting back to where they were in fiscal year 15. Would the difference between the two be taken out of the organizations or the entities that are getting more money, or would it be an even cut across the board?
There's a few ways. We'd have to decide this at the Finance Advisory Board. The way that was commonly discussed is we have two select entities that received a little bit over, as you can know, between the union and student organizations. We talked specifically about how those are given since we had a little bit of leeway. That's not a definite answer, but that was how conversations were going when we originally proposed our primary request. Any other questions? Yeah?
You mentioned something about increased enrollment was and overusage. How much enrollment have you seen an increase in, and what's the impact of that on the deterioration that you're seeing?
Well, I'd like to answer that in regards to student organizations. As I specifically cited earlier, our two biggest areas that have direct impact from growing students is student orgs and the Memorial Union, and I'll let Steve cover a brief bit of that in a second. But for student organizations, we have seen a massive spike over the past year and a half to 2 years of new organizations. If Matt Warsock is here, I believe we've grown at least 60 student organizations over the past 2 years.
Since 2015, I guess we've had about 60 students.
So that in its own has become a major funding issue right there. And if Steve would like to address the impact on the student usage in the union.
Sure. In a nutshell, since the building expanded since 2007, we've really increased our usage of the building about 100,000 a year, equaling about 2.1 million at this point. So with that 2.1 million, carpets, everything that you see in the building is just getting used quite a bit, and we love it, of course, but we also need to keep it up. The ballroom last year, a prime example where the entire technology just failed in that room, and instantly we had a $40,000 bill, which we had no idea where we were going to pull it from. So really, that's what we're just trying to maintain at this point.
Any other questions? All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next presentation will be for the library's request, and Alyssa will be presenting on this. And I'll just briefly mention, the library is just going through like a transition with the